Hello, my name is Holly Dawson-Varley, and today we'll be discussing the differing symbolism in two different adaptations of one story. The first being Villanova's traditional tale of Beauty and the Beast, which depicts an age-old story, one that has since been recreated with different meanings, infused by feminism and modernism. But just how reflective and relative is this story, and how have several adaptations influenced the original tale? I'll be discussing the representation of feminism and patriarchy in Angela Carter's rework of Beauty and the Beast, The Courtship of Mr. Lyon, and Villanova's fairy tale. More so, how the very different times in which these were written shape the same tale differently and with differing morals. So, it's important when exploring two texts to recognise the historical value and context in which they were written. This tale of Beauty and the Beast is an old one that has been reworked for centuries, and with that its meaning and moralism. Villanova was the first to create the tale, first crafted in 1740. Her work wasn't created until she was left widowed and living only on a small income in Paris. Her work was regarded as something different and positive due to her primary focus on women as these able-bodied, strong heroines. It's important to recognise the societal disposition these authors are at, particularly Villanova, being female authors at a time where women weren't condemned as intelligent or suitable writers, capable of creating something that is meaningful. Carter perfectly represents second-wave feminism. Her writing alike analyses reworks of traditional texts with a morbid twist that captures her true stance on the importance of female heroism inside literature. Carter was overpowered throughout her early years, following into adulthood, but she was married at 20. Arguably, could these factors be responsible for her heavy feminist values which are entwined within this tale and all her other writings? So in the Timeline article, it said that Carter led a life filled with intensity and turmoil, all the while pioneering literary genres and becoming a feminist icon. So it is Carter's dark and brooding work that perhaps allows her to create such an evocative twist on a traditional tale like this one. Second-wave feminism is greatly linked to Carter's work, created during the reign of second-wave feminism, and Carter was regarded as an essential member of this movement. As mentioned in the Britannia article, which I used for further reading, second-wave feminism is often remarked for its wrath. It is the shift from the initial first wave that prioritised rights to votes to a collective focus on the importance of reproductive rights, moulding a more fruitful future than motherhood. Contextually, Carter created this text in an era where the second-wave feminism was being protested and enforced in society. Thereby, there are clear feminist influences in this text from the whirlwind that society was at this time. So it's also important to discuss the representation of the beast being the main sort of character in the story. So inside Villanova's original tale, the beast is simply that, a beast, until he is restored in death as a beautiful man. There is an unknowing tension that surrounds him. Most importantly, he is represented as strangely distant from anything human-like, yet he still possesses such power. Therefore, there is a sense of vilification within the beast's character. He is far from attractive and yet still obtains power. This evokes a sense of societal uneasiness within the time it was created. Ugliness is largely associated with evil. These beliefs are typically interwoven with common prejudices at the time. But if we compare this to Carter's representation to the beast, we can see differing ideologies about the relevance of appearance and its association with evil. The beast is not a beast inside this adaptation, but rather that he is lion-like. This is evident in the title, The Courtship of Mr. Lyon, which already pronounces him as something more superior than a wretched beast. This superiority places the beast on a pedestal that isn't present in the original tale, showing a clear difference in symbolism in the beast's characterization, which in turn impacts the entire story, more so its moral aim. Another important difference is Carter's depiction of the beast's death. In both the original tale and Carter's tale, the beast's death is somewhat similar. He's conveyed as this heartbroken echo of what he once was on his deathbed. His love for his beauty has driven him to some uncertain, sorrowed madness. But in Carter's tale, the beast is far from attractive. He has crooked features and is displayed as ultimately weak in his human form. This greatly differs from Villanova's tale. In death, the beast is renewed from his ghastly features and is instead presented as the epitome of man. He is physically attractive to beauty in his rebirth appearance, and now obtains all these familiar, recognisable features that subtract from any initial disgust that she may have once had. Now, in the original tale, the beast is loved inside a traditional depiction of a man, and this is when he finally meets equilibrium. Consequently, this reinforces how he is only worthy when he isn't deemed as this othered character, but instead is appealing and fitting with the criteria of what it means to be a man. So I also want to discuss the representation of Beauty, who is the other main character and the primary protagonist in this story. So how is beauty represented in each story? And how do these representations of this age-old character influence each story and impact the feminism intertwined inside them? Well, again, it's essential to recognise the historical context of each one. In Villanova's tale, beauty captures the male gaze. She is obedient of the male figures that aim to dictate her life, whether that be through love or some form of depraved obsession. Arguably, this is similar in Carter's adaptation, as Beauty feels some kind of misogynistic obligation to stay with the beast to prove her daughterly love for her father. This highlights patriarchal desire and how women are societally required to obey the men in their lives. It's this idea of ownership, and whilst this may be more apparent in Villanova's text, these same unspoken but traditionalist roles for women exist across all literature, particularly in fairy tales. Now, in a Harvard University article named Feminism and Fairy Tales that I researched for wider reading, it said that in this article, it inspires the idea that in fairy tales women may obtain some sort of fantastical power. However, their abilities are enhanced fictionally rather than in a world of realism. Perhaps this is some comical, crude mocking of women's true power during society in these times. In Carter's tale, it could be argued that beauty undergoes a positive feminist metamorphosis, which is enforced by her redirection of morals. At first, she is amused by the idea of luxury and materialism, but she gives that up when she returns to find her true love. In his final moments, he is a decaying side of a man. Still, she prioritizes the true form of her loved one over her initial desire to obtain wealth and materialistic items. Now, this strays away from any sort of gold digger stereotype often forced upon women. She is presented in this story as not shallow, but more concerned with her own happiness found in love than the pearls and diamonds women have thought to sought after. On the contrary, in Villanova's text, beauty lacks this feminist twist in her characterization. Instead, she complies with her father's wishes to be confined by the beast's almost predatory love toward her, until she eventually gives in to him and returns to him when he becomes man. In this story, beauty lacks any real desire or individuality. She is instead created in a two-dimensional style which allows her to be passed between dominant male figures, always complying with their wishes and wants at the exposition of the tale. Beauty belongs to her father, and by the denouement she belongs to the beast. Now, Villanova's original tale captures Beauty as a feeble character, restricted by patriarchal forced dominance by both her father and the beast, of which she ultimately gives into, despite her initial vulnerability towards the beast. However, in Carter's adaptation, there is an air of feminism through Beauty's individualism, which isn't presented in the original. This is interesting as both authors were supportive of female individualism and female empowerment. Of course, in Villanova's 18th century story, the arrival of feminism in society is limited, whereas Carter is writing from a second wave feminist perspective, which grants Beauty this feminist metamorphosis. So that was my analysis of Beauty and the Beast, the original tale, and Angela Carter's rework, which is found inside the Bloody Chamber, The Courtship of Mr. Lyon. Two really interesting tales, really interesting to analyse, and that is everything. Thank you.